Hey, what is up, guys? Yeah, it's Lee back here again. Today, I'll be reviewing Ant-Man Quantumainia. But first, this is just gonna be pre-thoughts because I don't go until I watch this movie at 4 o'clock. Got my popcorn bucket ready. I think this shit looks tight. This is dope. I just wish they kind of put more effort into their movies instead of their popcorn buckets. But you know what? A win's a win. No. I'm going with this movie with open thoughts, open mind. Not expecting too much though. I've gotten burned before with some of their recent projects. But yeah, I mean, all I'm expecting really great is Jonathan Majors as Kang. I think he's got it in the bag. I don't have any doubts. If Loki has shown me what he can do with He Who Remains, I think he's got it in the bag for Kang. But yeah, I mean, catch you guys in a little bit after I watch it. Yeah. See ya. Hey, how's it going, guys? Lee here again. Yeah, so just came back from the theater watching Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumainia. I have to say, it was alright in the sense of, like, for a movie to be Quantumainia, I'm kind of disappointed by how I say it's alright. Especially given the scale of this movie, super big budget with all the CGI effects, the main villain being Kang the Conqueror, played by Jonathan Majors, which I want to get off right out the way. He was amazing as Kang the Conqueror. But yeah, back to it. So, for a movie that's called Quantumainia, you would think there would be a lot of crazy stuff happening, right? Given that Marvel has a track record, aka Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, there was very little multiverse happening and very little madness going on. Sure, they went like skipping through different, alternate universes, but if you compare that to Everything Everywhere All at Once, then yeah, you would know that Doctor Strange fumbled back on the multiverse aspect, which is funny considering Quantumainia, they utilize some like component parts when making a multiverse movie. Even though the main focus isn't the multiverse itself, it's the quantum realm. Even though it's a different universe, still technically part of the MCU that we've known, right? While the multiverse is something we're kind of jumping new into, like with Loki happening. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed with the name Quantumainia, and there wasn't really much crazy shit going on till like the third act. I mean, there was some cool, visuals. There were like cool characters, but they never really kind of focus on. They kind of get brushed aside. I get what in the story itself, it's pretty simple, but for something so simple, for something this big, you would think you would like to add in something different, something more like the characters, location, exploring a little bit more of the quantum realm. Nah, that's all just kind of... It didn't even feel like I was in the Quantumverse versus the other previous movies, like Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's about it. But yeah, for a movie that the whole location is the quantum realm, doesn't feel like the quantum realm. It just feels like a different planet that you're on. Mostly my gripes is, the story is kind of mid. Did not feel a whole lot of, heavy stakes were handed or that were given, except whenever Kang came into the picture. I have to say, again, Jonathan Majors crushed it as Kang the Conqueror. Whenever he's on screen, they don't do some quippy jokes at him. He doesn't throw back quippy jokes back at them. He actually makes his presence well known, and he is one tough son of a bitch. I have to say, I'm glad that Jonathan Majors is adding some new flavor to whenever Kang comes up on the screen. So far, again, it's not saying much because this is a second interpretation of playing Kang. Yes, I know He Who Remains is not technically Kang, but let's be realistic. If that's his variant, he's Kang. At the end of the day, he's Kang. Jonathan Majors, it's going to be hard whenever they do Doctor Doom. Considering that Secret Wars is happening after the Kang Dynasty, because Doctor Doom in the story, if you read the comics, he makes his presence very fucking known in the comic series for that. And it's gonna be like really tough to like go from Kang to Doctor Doom, because with comparing it with Thanos, we had our 10-year long run with Thanos. Even though we barely got to see him the whole saga up until Infinity War and Endgame, Thanos was, you can feel the weight of Thanos's villainy throughout those two movies. Whereas I'm glad that they're gonna still stick with Kang for each of, probably even before Avengers happens. I'm just glad Kang will like reprise his role in different interpretations. That way I want to see how Jonathan Majors can pull it off. But besides Jonathan Majors, I honestly, like, with Ant-Man himself, Paul Rudd, I don't know, I feel like this whole trilogy, like, the only good Ant-Man movie was the first Ant-Man. Like, Ant-Man Wasp, I honestly don't remember much from that movie besides Paul Rudd, Ghost, Paul Rudd, Ant-Man going into the quantum realm to, help Ghost just, with her condition, I guess. Then being stuck in the quantum realm for 5 years. And then leading up to Endgame. Wasp was, and Hank Pym, Michael Douglas, were just like kind of in the back seat for this whole movie. What I want to get into is Janet's connection to Kang, because we have not met Janet since Ant-Man 2. There was like, stuff within the first Ant-Man saying she was stuck in the quantum realm, yada yada yada. The second one, they tried to get her out of the quantum realm, but I'm glad they're kind of exploring back into what she's been doing all those years. She's basically led a revolution. She had more personal connection towards Kang in this movie, which I really loved. By the way. Honestly, every time you mention Kang around Janet, she gets fucking PTSD from that shit. And I'm like, okay, I'm really invested, and I want to see why she's doing this. And I'm like, and you get to see that. And I'm glad with Kang, they don't just make him some sympathetic villain like Thanos. They're not trying to copy what he did or like all the other previous villains did. No, Kang is just a straight up psychopath. And you know what? I'm kind of glad they're just doing that. I'm just trying to, control the whole timeline for myself before all these other fuckheads, aka me, take over it. And the way he's going about it is like, you know what? I'm going to kill everybody I can to just establish my dominance. And honestly, I kind of love that. Cassie. Yeah, Cassie. I didn't have much problems with Cassie in this movie because, the whole, this new phase that we're going into, it's sort of setting up Young Avengers. They didn't really put too much spotlight on Cassie. But the thing is, like, in this movie, within Cassie and Scott's relationship, with Scott being gone for 5 years, they keep mentioning it, like he's been an absent father. Paul Rudd is now more successful, famous. He has an not online persona guy. I was going to say he's a social media influencer. No, he's not. He has a book that he just came out with. He's just very famous, and he doesn't spend a lot of time with his daughter, which I felt like that was really out of character for Scott, especially given Endgame. Between when he reunites with Cassie after coming back from the quantum realm, it just felt so out of character for me. And also, they don't really explore it that much too, within him being like, gone from her and just like, hey, I've been a bad dad, let me try to make it up towards you. It doesn't really explore that much within the film. And also the trailers were super misleading. With Kang saying, you know what, you lost a lot of time with your daughter, I can give you all that time. Yeah, that shit is super misleading.
You have a daughter, but you've lost a lot of time, like me. We can help each other with that.
Yeah, that whole thing is towards a different character, which I'm not even going to spoil. if you're just interested going in blind. Yeah, so that whole, Scott trying to help Kang steal something for him to gain more time with Cassie, no, that's all complete bullshit. That was such a bait. Yeah, and this isn't really spoilers. I don't even know if this is going to be spoilers. Anyways, I'm going to give you guys 5 seconds to get out of this video and come back whenever you watch it.
12 seconds later.
Okay, potential spoiler or non-spoiler. M.O.D.O.K. Yeah, so he's in the film, played by, God, I can't even say his name, but the guy who played Darren Cross from the first Ant-Man movie. He was a hit and a miss for me. And also, I just want to get it out of the way. One, it's hard to do. It's going to be impossible to take M.O.D.O.K seriously. He has a big-ass head and tiny arms and legs. You can't take him seriously. Even if he's in a threatening demeanor, no. He could literally commit genocide and you can't take him seriously because of his whole stature. But yeah, with M.O.D.O.K in this movie, it was both a hit and miss for me. Honestly, like, some of the jokes in this movie, because especially with M.O.D.O.K, they do stick the landing for the most part. Others, not so well. But I did feel like M.O.D.O.K himself shouldn't even been there. By the end, okay, now I'm going to say a spoiler. 5 seconds again. I'm going to give you guys 5 seconds. This is a spoiler, real quick. Okay, you still here? Well, if you're still here, this is on you. M.O.D.O.K dies in this movie. Yeah. And it's such a, like, the way he goes out is literally the dumbest way possible. I just felt like it was a waste. He shouldn't have been there. But you know what? I'm glad they got rid of that version of M.O.D.O.K, and if they ever do continue with that character, they can bring in another one. This time, more comic accurate. Even though he was comic accurate, I'm not saying he wasn't. It's just, more fucked up face. Because to be honest, he doesn't have a normal human face. Yeah. Oh, and by the third act, it kind of falls for me. By the third act of the movie. The way that Kang gets... Okay. By the third act, it falls flat for me. Because considering with Kang in the movie, the third act, it kind of does fall for me by there. I'm not going to go much into it. This is about all I'm going to say. Yeah, so Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumainia. I'll give it a rating of a 7 out of 10. There were some good things about it. Visually, honestly, I'm actually now thinking why other projects had very shitty VFX work. Despite, Marvel rushing all their VFX workers with their time crunches and all that. There is another reason why the other projects look so shit. And when you watch this movie, it's like, okay, they were just hoarding all that money for this project. They're going to even hoard more future projects, VFX money, into their like big upscale movies like Avengers. You're going to notice it. I saw it when Black Panther 2018 had that shitty CGI fight by the third act of the film. And you can tell where all that money went to for Infinity War and Endgame. So yeah, VFX in this movie was actually really good. It wasn't shit. Except when M.O.D.O.K was on screen, it was really noticeable. And also a tiny part of like a fight between Ant-Man and Kang's goons. Yeah, those are about the only noticeable that I could notice. Oh, and actually, there are multiple Paul Rudd's, Ant-Man's. That it kind of does get noticeable in that sequence. But yeah, versus with Wasp, her, multiple variants in that film. But yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna give this movie rating a 7 out of 10. There's 2 post-credit scenes if you're wondering. One, setting up future Avengers movies, and the other one, Loki Season 2. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts? Write them down in the comments. Make sure you like, subscribe, and see you guys next time.